We are back at it again on the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel discussing if Mike Evans will return to Tampa. Derek, what's your thoughts here, man? Do you think Mike Evans is coming back this season? If not, any ideas where he's going?
Yeah, I think he's going to have a strong pull to leave. That makes a lot of sense for him. Well, really, I think more importantly, we're going to find out what's important to Mike Evans. Is it max contract? Is it money? Or is it a chance to play for a title? Because I really don't think that, his remaining, at least the next few years, he's probably not going to be competing for a title in Tampa. And so if he really wants the title more than anything, I think this is really his only chance to do it. And I think there's going to be a strong pull from some of those contenders like Buffalo and, Kansas City is going to want to retool. And, some of the other teams out there that are kind of on the cusp, I think Mike Evans would be a huge boost for them. And I think he's going to get plenty of offers. And, if he wants a ring, he's gone. If he wants, max contract, then maybe he stays. So it's going to be interesting to see, what really motivates him. Personally, I think he probably moves on.
Sky, what's your thoughts about the situation? I know you have you any inclinations about if he's going to leave, if he stays? What do you think's going on?
Well, the Bucs and he missed a deadline this morning of this recording here. To come to agreement, right? So it looks like he most likely is going to test the market at this point. It's not official yet, but kind of got the idea, right? That he wants to kind of follow out Baker. Looks like him and Baker became besties. And if they're not going to treat Baker well and he moves on or something else, then maybe Mike Evans does. But, Rodgers and Adams tried to play that card with Green Bay, and they basically got rid of the wide receiver, or they got rid of the wide receiver in that case. Right. Now for the Bucs, I think it's better. Well, they got, all right, rid of both eventually, yes. But I do think that Evans. I think that Evans ultimately moves on. Great legacy in Tampa Bay, but he really has, I think, maybe 4 or 5 great years left. Hopefully, injury free, of course, to get an opportunity for a ring, and he's not going to do it in Tampa. So, oddly enough, that division as a whole, I think, is the most open for them to continue to win it potentially and whatever. But once you get into the playoffs, they're just not on the same level as some of the top tier teams in the NFC. So I think he's going to go to the AFC. And there's a number of teams, you mentioned them earlier: Baltimore, Buffalo, Cincinnati, with T. Higgins, in my opinion, leaving. You're going to have a big gap there. So Mike Evans right now sticking with the Bucs, but I do think ultimately he does leave, and I'm actually excited to see him do so.
Yeah, it's a little deceiving because, the other problem is, what is Baker going to get as a free agent, right? I know the Bucs have some cash right now, but they have some big names that are free agents. I know they talked a little bit about franchising Winfield Jr., their safety. So that's going to take up a big portion of that salary cap. They have about 41. Now, listen, me and Matt were doing a bunch of these shows last year. When the Saints signed Derek Carr, I just threw my hands up. I'm like, I don't even know how this works anymore. The Saints were minus 50,000 and 50 million, my apologies, and they got Derek Carr. I was like, I don't even know how this works then. I don't even know. So teams can kick things down the road. They can restructure. They can do a bunch of things. So it's not, but the question is, do they want to do that for an aging wide receiver with average quarterback play? I mean, I don't know. I think he's a Tampa Bay guy. I totally get it. But they got Levante David, Devin White also as free agents. And then Baker himself, does Baker Mayfield, listen, these quarterbacks are getting $50 million in free agency and getting contracts that big. Now, Baker could be in the middle, 30 million, right? But that's still a big portion of their their salary cap. So if Baker gets paid, then they got to pay Winfield. Do they bring back White? Do they bring back David? Where do they feel comfortable with guys like Trey Palmer backing him up? So I do think there is a chance, especially because what Derek brought up, does he want to win? Does he feel does he go to the teams like the Ravens, even the Lions, by the way, who we talked about the other episode? We talked about how they could use a more established number 2 with Amon, but talk about a great fit. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown, you do the slot thing. Mike Evans, you handle the outside. I mean, that's kind of perfect. They also have the cap to go out and splurge, but they also have everything else locked up, the Lions. The Lions have their money allocated already. So, there is a good chance that they can bring in or compete to take Mike Evans. Maybe listen, Bryce Young, we don't know what his situation is, but Dave Canales just had a great season. The Panthers need help. They could go and say, hey, man, come to us. We can offer you some big money. Maybe they can push for that. I don't know, because they don't have the draft assets to necessarily go, build up that position. So, there's that. But on the flip side of this too, if Mike Evans does walk, Derek, you're like, first reactions. Do you think Chris Godwin bounces back? Do you think Trey Palmer's a sleeper? Do you think Cade Otton is worth a look? Does Rachaad White become more a focal point in the passing game? Like, if Mike Evans walks, what's your first thought about the Bucs?
Yeah, if he walks, I like Rachaad White stepping up even more. Cade Otton took steps ahead, like you said, as well. So yeah, I like both of them, and I think frankly the Bucs could go after one of these second tier receivers who are very good. If Mike Evans walks, what about someone like T. Higgins or even Marquise Brown? We've talked about him on other shows that, he might be a dynamic player to fit that offense with what they have right now and try to make up what Evans was to the team with, a couple other players. So I do like the position with Otton at tight end. I think he's going to be a valuable, player for fantasy next year, kind of second, third tier tight end role. And certainly Rachaad White shows that he can handle the passing game duty. So I like him stepping up as well. But they're going to have a hole there. Godwin, is fine, but they're going to need someone else. And I think, save the money, put it towards those other players like you mentioned, get one of those, maybe those second tier receivers that are on the free agent market. And I think they'll be just fine.
Scott?
For what they are, for what Tampa is. Again, they're not, like Sky said, they're not going to the Super Bowl, but they can be competitive in that division, with a, even a smaller investment to just fill Mike Evans' shoes.
I do like Chris Godwin a lot. He's taken a step back the last couple of years. He's battled some injuries, but also I think Tom Brady just helped him out tremendously in that year. Right. And then back in the Jameis, Fitzmagic days, they were just so run and gun. They just had the volume there when he was number 2 behind Mike Thomas in 2019. I do like Cade Otton. He's a nice kind of like mid to late round tight end. If you sleep on the rest of them, I would probably grab a second guy with him, but nice streamer there. And then, Trey Palmer's fun. I know Matt talked about him quite a bit in his waiver articles over the season there. So Trey Palmer's an option. Then Rachaad White, I just don't necessarily believe in him. One team we haven't brought up yet, and I'm just kind of crunching the numbers. I thought about this. I was like, nah, but you know what? I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to pull LaMarco here, and I'm going to go into coaching connections. I'm going to go into like who knows who. And I don't think anybody has made this connection, but I'm going to do it. Makes sense. Mike Evans to the Commanders. I think a big change. I think overall going with that team there, they need some help. Curtis Samuel, 21.5 guarantees. He's the second highest to only Mike Evans. They need some other options there. My boy De'Ami Brown has not panned out, unfortunately. Who knows what they're going to do at a quarterback position, but having a wide receiver of Hall of Fame caliber would help them bring in maybe a Russell Wilson or whoever else they want in Washington there, along with a rookie. He would be the bona fide number 1. I love Terry McLaurin, but he just hasn't been the dominant self due to quarterback play, but nonetheless. And he could also follow Cliff Kingsbury as well. Cliff Kingsbury was the OC.
2012. What a pull.
Yep. You like that?
I like that.
And
I do like
on
it.
top,
I do
on
like
top
it.
of that, this is actually a Johnny Manziel connection for you. Also Christian Kirk and Josh Reynolds, solid squad there back in the day for A&M. But I do like Cliff Kingsbury, Coach Mike Evans back in the day, and now back in the league here. So, a couple different options I think that are a little bit off the radar if Mike Evans does go. But, the Commanders, nobody's going to catch the Eagles and the Chiefs. We all love the Giants, Bob, but they need about 9 receivers. Washington might just be one away with what should be an uptick in the running game, and hopefully they fix the quarterback situation there. So we'll see what happens. But that's kind of my sleeper there is the Commanders maybe for Mike Evans.
I do think there's a huge part of this that we have to talk about is that there's a new coordinator. Like Liam Cohen's coming in to be the new OC. Like it's not a direct tie to what Dave Canales ran. This will be a new system. It is West Coast, which is great. Granted, if you want to go back to Dave Canales, like technically Shane Waldron was under Shane Waldron, who also coached with Liam Cohen. So maybe they thought there's that connection. Liam Cohen also maybe crossed paths briefly. He did cross paths briefly with Baker Mayfield with his time with the Rams. So maybe that's why they brought Cohen in, because Baker's like, hey, I was with this guy in 2022 with the Rams. I like what he had to do. I like what his thing was, blah, blah, blah. But then with Mike Evans comes back, there is going to be changes. Like this isn't going to just be hit the ground running. So people need to remember they're not coming back to the same exact offense, same scheme. There'll be new terminology with Liam Cohen. So it's not necessarily just right back to the old ways. So Mike Evans could view the situation a little different as well. So I do think there's a chance he leaves. I would love for him to go somewhere to compete for a title. Like I think the Ravens, the Lions make a ton of sense for him, especially with like those are the teams, by the way, like the Chiefs. Like, don't be Kevin Durant and join the Chiefs. Come on, Mike. Join one of the teams on the cusp. And I don't know what the baseball version of that would be, but, Ohtani joined the Dodgers. I don't know. Is that bad?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. See, I know.
Good job, Bob. Good job.
Thanks. All right. Before we close the show, final thoughts, guys. This is it. Put it on the record. Mike Evans, we talked about this previous show. Where is he? If he's going, where is he going? Let's put it on the record officially. Mike Evans, staying or going? Derek, your thoughts?
He's going. Buffalo parts ways with Stephon Diggs, and Mike Evans becomes the new number one with Josh Allen up in Buffalo.
Love it. Sky?
Wow. I really think he follows Cliff Kingsbury, but that wouldn't make sense for a title. So I like him going to Detroit, actually. I'll take that.
I'm going to say he reunites with Todd Monken and goes to the Baltimore Ravens. All right, folks, that's all we got today. This is the Razzball Fantasy Football Podcast on the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button and go check out the other videos on our channel, the free agency preview for running backs and wide receivers. I want to thank both my co-hosts. Make sure you go follow them on Twitter as well, at Sky Gawasco, at Derek_Favre, and myself, at Bobby Lamarco on Twitter. We are out of here, folks.